The blizzard had descended on Epsilon, 7 like a wrathful god, transforming the mining outpost into a frozen tomb. Benjamin pressed his thermal scanner against the frosted viewport, watching the temperature drop to -60 and falling. The colony's emergency sirens wailed their dying song as power cells failed one by one. "We need to evacuate now," Sophia said, her breath forming clouds in the rapidly cooling control room. She was the station's chief engineer, her hands already moving across the failing console with practiced urgency. "The backup generators won't last another hour." Benjamin nodded, pulling on his thermal suit. As the outpost security officer, evacuations fell under his jurisdiction, but they both knew the truth. In this storm, evacuation meant certain death. Still, staying meant freezing. That's when the proximity alarm chirped. Something was outside. "Impossible," Sophia muttered, checking the readings. "Nothing survives in this." But the scanner didn't lie. 2 life signs, small and fading, huddled against the western airlock. Benjamin didn't hesitate. He grabbed the emergency medkit and cycled the airlock, ignoring Sophia's protests about protocol. The wind hit him like a physical wall, stealing his breath and nearly knocking him off his feet. Through the swirling white chaos, he saw them. 2 children, no more than 6 years old, their skin bearing an iridescent sheen that seemed impossible, almost reptilian. They wore no protective gear, yet somehow clung to consciousness. "Got them," Benjamin shouted into his calm, scooping both children into his arms. They were impossibly light, their bodies radiating a strange warmth despite the killing cold. As he carried them inside, he noticed their eyes, vertical pupils that caught the dim emergency lights and reflected them back like mirrors. Sophia had already prepared the medical bay. "What are they?" she whispered, running a scanner over the unconscious twins. "These readings." "Benjamin, they're not human." "Does it matter?" he replied, wrapping them in thermal blankets. "They're children." Over the next hour, as the storm raged and the outpost systems failed around them, Benjamin and Sophia worked to save the twins. The boy stirred first, his golden eyes focusing on Benjamin with an intelligence that seemed far too ancient for his apparent age. "You saved us," the child said in perfect standard galactic, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated in Benjamin's chest. "Father said humans were dangerous, that they feared what they didn't understand." "Your father was half right," Sophia said gently, adjusting the foredrip. "We do fear, but we also have something called compassion. Where are your parents?" The girl woke then, reaching for her brother's hand. "Father will come," she said simply. "He always comes." 20 minutes later, the storm stopped. Not gradually, it ceased in an instant, as if turned off by a switch. Benjamin rushed to the viewport and felt his blood turn to ice for a different reason. A ship hung in the sky, not orbiting, not landing, simply existing where it chose to be. It was massive beyond comprehension, its surface seeming to shift and flow like liquid metal. And it was moving toward them. "Sophia," Benjamin said quietly, "I think we have a problem." The communication array, dead for hours, suddenly crackled to life. A voice filled the control room, deep, resonant, carrying the weight of eons and the promise of violence. "You have my children." Sophia's hands flew across her console, pulling up every database, every intelligence file the outpost had access to. Her face went pale. "Oh no. Oh, Benjamin, no." "What?" She turned the screen toward him. The image showed a being of terrible beauty, humanoid but clearly not human, with scales that shifted through colors that had no name. Beside the image, a list of titles and crimes that stretched for pages. Warlord, Crime Lord, the Dragon of Xanathar, ruler of the Obsidian Syndicate, wanted by 17 planetary governments and 4 galactic councils. "Zarathos," Sophia breathed. "We saved the children of Zarathos the Eternal." The airlock opened without permission, the mechanisms overridden by technology far beyond human engineering. Zarathos entered, and the temperature in the room seemed to rise from his mere presence. He was 3 meters tall, his scales glowing with an inner fire, his eyes, the same golden eyes as his children, fixed on Benjamin and Sophia. "Father!" the twins cried in unison, rushing to him. He caught them, and for a moment, the most feared being in the galaxy looked simply like a relieved parent. Then those terrible eyes turned to the 2 humans. "My scouts lost them in the storm," Zarathos said, his voice now quiet but no less powerful. I searched, but even I cannot see through the fury of Epsilon 7's weather systems. I was afraid. Benjamin stepped forward, and Sophia grabbed his arm. He shook her off gently. They're safe. That's what matters. Zarathos studied him for a long moment. You knew who I was when you saved them? No, Benjamin admitted. But I'm not sure it would have mattered. They were children in danger. That's all I needed to know. Something shifted in Zarathos' expression. Surprise, perhaps, or recognition of something unexpected. He reached into his armor and produced a small crystal that pulsed with inner light. This is a beacon, he said, pressing it into Benjamin's hand. Call, and the Obsidian Syndicate will answer. Any favor, any service, any time. The Dragon of Xanathar does not forget those who protect his blood. We don't need, Benjamin began, but Zarathos raised a clawed hand. It is not negotiable. You showed my children that humans possess something I had thought myth, the ability to see need before profit, to offer help before calculation. He looked between Benjamin and Sophia. My intelligence networks are vast. I will ensure Epsilon 7 receives the resources it needs to survive such storms in the future. Consider it an investment in the species that saved my heirs. As Zarathos departed with his children, the girl looked back and waved. Benjamin waved back, still processing what had happened. Sophia leaned against the console, laughing weakly. We just became friends with the galaxy's most wanted crime lord. No, Benjamin corrected, watching the impossible ship disappear into the stars. We just proved that humanity's greatest strength isn't technology or warfare. It's knowing that some things, like protecting children, transcend politics and fear. Sophia smiled, despite everything. Very HFY of you. What? Humanity, yeah, she explained. It's an old Earth saying. Means we're crazy enough to do the right thing, even when it's the stupid thing. Benjamin grinned. Yeah, I suppose it does. Outside, Epsilon 7's twin suns broke through the dissipating clouds, and somewhere in the vast darkness of space, a crime lord learned that perhaps his children's lesson about humans had been incomplete. They weren't just dangerous because they feared the unknown. They were dangerous because sometimes they didn't fear at all.